calling meeting to order at 5:03.
I can read the land acknowledgement. Thank you. Before colonization and settlement by people of European descent, a place we know as Evanston was home to Potawatomi, Odawa, and Ojibwe tribe, also known as the Council of Tribes. It also served as an important crossroads and meeting place for a number of other Indigenous tribal nations, including the Ho-Chunk, Illinois, and Nogac, Kickapoo, Miami, Mahoning, Peoria, Stop, and Fox Nations. We acknowledge and honor the original people of this land, as well as the Indigenous people that still hold it today, and support their continued work for justice, self-determination, and God. In so doing, we honor Indigenous protocol and remind ourselves and our community that land acknowledgement is not a gift. Thank you. All right. Roll call. Dada. Cole.
Here.
Huggins here. Kelleher here. Mills here. Shea. Shire. Here. Is Arepa joining later? No, just now. All right, I'll set Arepa. And Walt. No, Esther. Her resignation did effective already.
Maybe it's effective already.
Maybe it's Esther's is the third.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also know that she's I think she might be traveling today, but I'm not 100% sure. So before we get started, one, I'd like to entertain a motion to allow Trustee Dada to participate virtually.
Second.
All right. Both.
Aye.
Huggins, aye. Kelleher,
Aye.
Mills, aye. Shire,
Aye.
all right.
Hooray! And second,
You guys, I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. I'm also on my way. I have to pick up my kids.
Speak loudly.
okay. So while she's thinking about that, I'd like to also entertain a motion to move item C, to swap item C and I don't remember what this word is called, but when you take the bottom one, put it at the top, everything shifts down. So C becomes A becomes B becomes C. I want to do appointment of transitional first.
C to A and shift everything else down.
Yeah.
So moved. No. Jean, that was you who seconded.
Oh, yes. Okay. Dada.
Both.
Aye.
Huggins, aye.
Sorry, guys, I cannot hear you.
That's okay.
Okay.
No worries. Mills.
Yes. Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there citizen comment?
Thanks, not citizen comment.
Great. There is no old business, so we'll move right to new business and item now A, appointment of transitional leadership. So given what happened when we had our last meeting, it occurred to me that there was one kind of solution to the problem of what happens on the meeting, whose date I can't remember, July 14th-ish. 15th, thank you, July 15th. So the challenge with the meeting set for July 15th is that because there would only be 2 trustees, even if new trustees were appointed at the city council meeting, you would not be able to hold a legal meeting because there wouldn't have been enough trustees to establish quorum and there wouldn't have been anyone to vote them in. So, or not vote, yes, you couldn't vote because you would never be able to establish quorum. And it could have been a cycling loop and a mess. So our bylaws say that if you are a member of the executive leadership, you can continue to serve in your role until a replacement is appointed. So the solution to that would be, and so it's kind of perfect that the 3 of us are here, that we would continue in our term until that meeting so that so we could convene the meeting, swear in the new people, and then we're replaced. And as I was thinking about it, I don't know why this just didn't occur to me earlier. Maybe because I was kind of crying and not in my right mind. But every time new trustees have come on, the existing trustee was there.
That's true.
There was never a time when
Yeah,
the
that's true.
trustee wasn't there. They were always there. So I don't know why it just, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know.
They were there, were they there as voting members or they're just?
They were there to convene the meeting. We, did all the normal business.
That swore them out.
Yes, the swearing in was the moment that they then exited. That's what happened by Shali was there when I was on. Like, same thing happened with Esther, same thing happened with you, like, they weren't there?
No, because there was enough.
I think if there's enough members.
There was
it doesn't
enough.
have to be.
It wasn't an issue.
Also, it might not when members are harder for her to attend, I think, so maybe she didn't need to be there.
Oh, maybe. But I could have
Mm-hmm.
Can I
sworn,
say one
Yeah.
more thing also, well, it's true that it says that in our bylaws. Also, the Illinois Local Library
I was gonna bring this up too.
states that just for trustees in general, a trustee is appointed for a term of 3 years and until their successor is appointed.
Thank you,
Yeah.
librarian. Okay.
Yeah.
So while our bylaws are silent on that particular
It's the only library.
yeah,
Yeah.
point, the Illinois Local Library Act.
addresses
That was,
this.
I also researched that and it would have meant that we would have had to resign to not continue on.
Right.
Right,
Got
Had been
it.
removed in
Right.
any other
You
capacity
did not
either.
resign and you were not removed, you just
We just hit
withdrew
the-
your application to be reappointed.
Right.
No one has been appointed as
Yeah.
your successor yet,
right.
so you continue until that occurs.
Okay.
So thank God, there's no governance crisis. Well,
Not yet.
not yet. So, I mean, so the other layer. Well, we'll get to the other layer later.
Okay.
So my plan was, the oomph is that Katie is serving as, or that wasn't a contested problem. The problem was you, because there is an existing treasurer. So I would like to appoint you vice president today. Surprise, surprise, so that you can, it was solving the problem of
I see.
our bylaws say that even though the library acts as one thing, our bylaws say the specific solution is to appoint. And as president, if there's no one serving in that capacity, I can appoint someone in that capacity. So I'd like to appoint you a vice president if you would be so willing.
Sure.
Okay, great. So now I continue serving as president until the
New people.
new people are onboarded. And what will then happen, actually, we can talk about that as transition preparation.
Okay.
But the president can appoint if there is a vacancy. So there was a vacancy, so I can appoint Michelle. Any questions about what just happened?
No.
Katie stays on as secretary.
Yep.
And then as of 2 days from now,
Yep,
she's treasurer.
that's right.
Right, and it's an appointment, so we don't need a motion.
Nope,
Yep, okay.
we all good? Everybody, Jean, you feel good?
I feel great. So then Michelle will be the chair of the management committee in July.
Yeah. I forgot about that one.
Guess I need to put some stuff back on the calendar that I took out.
Yeah, sorry.
Fine.
I wasn't thinking that, I didn't, yeah, whatever, we won't go into the weeds. Okay, so we're good there, we have okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Okay.
The next thing is the RFP update. So this also solves the problem of reviewing the applications for the RFP.
This is true.
Yeah, so it solves that problem too. So that means their continuity can continue. I don't remember what the date is, because when I put things out of my mind, I genuinely put them out of my mind.
July 10th.
Thank you, July 10th.
It's now we're all reviewing them.
Right.
Alright,
So, surprise, surprise,
fine.
we care about our community. We're
Yeah.
devoted
Good.
public servants, like,
You don't have to convince anyone in this room.
Started my new volunteer thing today, guys. Thought I was done.
I just volunteered for anything today.
Surprise,
That was the last week.
surprise.
I'm like, oh, I'm transitioning off this board. Sure, I could be an AYSO board member.
I mean, oh, that's fun.
My kid's a huge soccer head.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
I
Is that
mean-
you too?
No, it's
No.
not anyway, so they are not gonna suck me.
I've let them suck me in.
Not the volunteer led sport stuff. is
Yeah.
for
If
me.
you want do-gooders, you look to the Evanston Public Library Board of Trustees. You just cannot help yourself. I'm already the chair of another committee, like, yeah, so anyway, where was I?
About the RFP review.
Right, so we're gonna need to have a special meeting, executive session only to review the,
Thought we were gonna do it in the
I
management.
thought we were.
Right,
in-
were we?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Oh, great.
And so that
Then I won't worry
stuff
about
was
it.
due, I will just go back to rolling it up, or I don't know what, like.
I
did
mean,
last time,
you're,
and then-
you're the chair of the management committee now.
So,
Problem solved, I forgot
yeah,
about
and
that.
then we'll just come meet in the management meeting, discuss it there, and then we're good. So,
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so are there any,
So the
Wait.
management committee is the 17th.
No,
Let's save
it's
it till the
15th.
Wait, I'm
15th,
sorry, I'm looking at
before-
June 15th, thank you.
Yeah.
the
And
15th?
It's at 5 on the
It's at
15th.
5.
Is that enough time, do you feel?
Yeah,
Oh, sure, they're due 10th, the 10th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Question about the RFP process.
Sure, sure.
When we first did this, were we allowed to, or did we reach out to any search firms that were on the Rails list or elsewhere, or that we had heard about? And if we had, are we also doing that this time?
So I've always had the philosophical aversion to doing that because it feels like to me putting your thumb on the scale. So if I called this one, but I didn't call this one. The last time we did this 2 years ago, we did have a list and we called those people. It did not actually result in a changed process. And so it felt to me unseemly to do that as a board. Now, I have no idea what other people may have done in their just interest, like, oh, I know, somebody from Keys Alfred called me because I work on other searches to say that they were going to apply and saying, we want to make sure that we have a disclosure that you have worked with us, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's totally fine. And they're like, do you think we should apply? I'm like, I think it's totally inappropriate for me to answer that. So you do what you're gonna do. I mean, there's still time, right? So if somebody wanted to do that on their own, I feel like that's their business, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to do that. That's how I see it, but I'm open to feedback about that. What do you think?
I mean, it's publicly available, and then are we trying to get the people we know might be eligible to submit something? I mean, the point is it's transparent and fair that people who are looking for the business can come and get it. That's the point of making it available to all.
Yeah.
Describing what we're looking for, whether we're also then asking people who we think would be good at it to do it. I think that's fine and very normal, and that is how this is done all the time.
Yeah,
It's not important to me one or the other.
yeah.
It is.
I think it's still okay for someone individually to do it, but I just don't
Sure.
think as a board, we should
Okay.
do it.
I
as a-
definitely wanted to make sure that they went back out to the people who had completed the process last time, that, because I think we're counting on them to resubmit.
So it sounds like beat the bushes for whoever you might want, just not an official capacity.
Right, that would be my take.
And it's tough I don't want to duplicate anyone though, who's already.
I don't have the time to do it.
Now, I actually feel like that would be okay.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because then it would be obvious that it's not the
organic.
board.
Oh,
It's
that's
not
fair.
right,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Does
Yeah.
look less preferential.
right. So if we all
Yeah.
get together and we're like, you call Bob, I'll call Susie,
Mhm.
then it looks like we're,
Yeah, that's a good point.
because we
Yeah.
would be doing that.
Yes, but if you know of someone in your like professional capacity, I
Right.
swear,
Yeah.
by all means.
Right, I was just concerned because, it's summer, people are away.
Yeah.
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 Most people are looking at these things, right, but maybe not everybody.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's totally illegal to say. A firm and say, hey, this is available publicly, you should apply. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
So Heather and I discussed very briefly, because I felt like I was done at the time we were having this conversation, that it needed to be for discussion and action, but there is no action needed because we already established that we were gonna do it at management committee.
yep,
So,
So, okay, so
Yeah.
the management committee agenda item is review scoring and. make
Yeah.
a
and then we're
proposal-
making a
make
referral to the full
referral.
board that night.
yep,
It's just double checking, we have one. Or.
So the mechanics of that is that we're assuming that city council, the assumption here is that city council on the 13th will be
Will.
making appointments. And then in the management committee, we've got, let's say, the five of us.
mhm,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we come to the management committee as board members,
mhm,
but then we come to the meeting. And we're referring an action to that meeting
mhm,
where we won't be members that whole meeting. There will be new people sworn in.
yes,
We're saying, here, we're handing this to you to vote on.
yes.
Okay. And they're saying, never seen this before, they might have,
They may decline to vote.
They may
Yeah.
decline to vote.
okay,
Yeah. So I didn't really think about, remember,
yeah,
When you've
no, I'm
already
just
done.
spelling
When
this-
I was done.
I'm just spelling this out. to make
Yeah.
sure
I'm a little concerned.
because we're just walking out of the room, are we staying for the meeting, I don't know how
I
that
mean, we could
works.
do what you want.
Yeah, you're done.
What usually happens,
They usually leave,
okay,
but
Or
which I-
move to this.
or move to the seats.
Yeah.
I mean, you know me, I'm not trying to stay late for.
Right. So I have no idea. Like, I mean, they could, have confetti in their hands and go like this,
I don't know
and
that that's gonna happen.
I mean,
Now I feel like I have to run confetti.
Cake or something.
or a bugle,
Or-
something. So I think the way that we could. Okay. So this is a little tea leavey. We have no control or ability to influence whether those appointments happen.
Right, so that's our first problem, we have,
Yes.
like, let's just like acknowledge that for one moment. If city council doesn't appoint members on the 13th, we have. What happens next?
This board continues to serve.
This board continues to serve, at least the five of us. Have to continue, well, I mean, you don't have to,
You don't have.
but if you don't, it means the library can't pay its bills,
Right,
in essence.
Yeah.
they have forced a full-scale governance crisis.
Yes,
Because
they
the
have.
option that we have is to resign
Sure.
Yes,
Absolutely.
or continue serving until they appoint members.
that's right,
They can appoint them, but those board members may not be available
Yeah,
or
they can be
present
seated.
2 days later.
that's also true. So. This is a little tea leavey, and like, how do we make sure that?
Sorry.
Right. So my thinking was, there could be a little, the only tool that we have is agenda, right? That's the only resource that we actively control, is what happens in that meeting, right? So what I was imagining is that well, no, I couldn't do it that way. Okay, so the best tool would be to set an agenda where that item comes before swearing in. So that the existing board votes on it, then the new people are sworn in, assuming that they are sworn in. And then at least that part of the process moves forward irrespective of what city council does.
So. I wanna make sure I'm tracking this
Yeah.
closely, so. We know that city council had 4 appointees, one that is controversial.
Well, it's not, I don't know that it's. I think city council has been approaching appointments differently than they have historically.
Right,
Historically, there was no question, people were just appointed.
right,
Now, that is not true, because land use was, land use was a mess,
okay.
and I forgot what
Oh, so it's not just our appointments, it's,
no, there is a active,
I see.
Politicization.
yes, thank you,
Okay.
that word. And I think what's worrisome about that, at least from my lens, is that all of those other committees are advisory,
Mhm.
they're not governance.
Right,
So if they don't meet, nothing really happens. I mean, it's annoying, but
Right,
nothing
right.
happens.
right.
If we don't meet, we don't vote to pay the bills.
Right, so I tried to make some of that clear in some of what I was releasing
Yes.
publicly for today's meeting.
Yes.
So I don't think that's clear, maybe to city council,
Oh, I don't.
after watching
Unfair
last
to
week's city
say.
council
So-
meeting,
so
and
it-
that's what I wanted to try to get at
Yes.
here, is that I don't know that they understand. Not appointing people on the 13th actually potentially risks.
I can guarantee you that they don't, like, there's no way that they understand that. But also, so are we done with RFP? We have no more questions about RFP?
That's a good thing. I had questions about the agenda for the July 15th meeting, but it's not specifically RFP.
Okay, so let's go to transition preparation, because I think this is where the discussion.
Transition naturally
Yes.
to that.
So let's not forget that in our recent national history, there have been government shutdowns.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of a government shutdown, where the government doesn't vote to fund itself and you cannot work. So if there is no library board, the library cannot open. Like, that's just, like, that's the difference. I think that there are maybe some council members who don't fully understand the difference, or they could be making a political statement. That's why I said it's kind of tea leavy. I don't know if their intention is to force a government shutdown. I don't know if their goal is to shine a light. There's some who believe that the library should be not appointed and instead elected. So this could be the way that they force this issue to the front. Like, I have no idea. And to be honest, and I think I've said this to Victoria, like, I don't actually care. Like, whatever they got going on, that is their business. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not responsible for a crisis.
Right.
Yeah,
And so what can we do to make sure that that doesn't happen, irrespective of what choices they may make? They're also running, you know, people have that, in
Right,
that role have to
yes.
run for election.
right,
There's this whole mayor, like.
Yeah.
People may be doing stuff because they want to be mayor, I don't
Right.
know. But I feel like our focus should be, you know, fairly narrow.
right.
And we should, the part that we have control over is whether the three of us show up, I mean, you too, but the real problem is whether we show up and whether we have an agenda that ensures that if they do something crazy, we're still able to pay the bill, we're still able to lights.
Yes, but I feel like some library trustees were in a position where they resigned for where I was ending my term
Mhm.
coincidentally at the same time, and I think all three of us made statements that were in alignment with the resigning trustees.
Yes,
I wasn't resigning because my term was ending, but
Right.
I'm done participating in the arrangement we have with city council right now
Yeah.
for some of the same reasons. I think we made
Yeah.
some very clear statements and principles known as to why the arrangement is not working.
yes.
And so continuing to hold the seat warm in perpetuity because we have this dysfunctional government arrangement does not work for me. So I do not want to be responsible for shutting the library down, but
Well,
also
Yeah,
I don't feel like I'm bringing attention to the right things that need to be addressed here. I'm continuing to perpetuate the problems by staying in this seat too. I will do it for a month. Well, because I believe city council
Yes.
didn't act on this fully understanding the problems, but we are putting this information out into the public.
yeah,
I think it was 117 pages worth of information.
yeah.
it was beautiful.
I think some clearly articulated memos, I
Yeah.
don't know. But I think, I want it clear to the public that we have been clear for many months about what.
For
help-
years, Michelle.
For years, about what kind of help we're looking for from city council. To address the library's problems, that the community has, helped us figure out what kind of library we wanna be, what kind of. Jewel for downtown we wanna be, et cetera, and that we were trying to get a capital pathway to do those things, we were trying to hire. Good staff, we were trying to do these other things that people have asked for here, and I have had a lot of confusion about how to have the kind of relationship we wanna have with the city, and I think us staying here doesn't help that.
Yes, I want, sorry,
Appreciate that.
I want to second, I will not, Michelle said it so beautifully, I feel the same way. I'm willing to stick around for an extra month
Becca clip, but I'm not going to, because the same reason I withdrew, because I don't wanna be seen to support this. And that said, I don't know if city council was fully aware of what was going on with the negotiations around the, service agreements and the lease. And if that falls on the city manager for not making them more fully aware of what was going on there, I'm not sure. But there has been some sort of breakdown and it's intolerable that went on for years like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with what either of you have said.
I certainly want people. I certainly don't want the employees of this institution to not get paid.
Right.
Um,
It is rather frustrating that so to your point, like, if we don't do it, and I feel not good about saying it this way, but it's the truth, is that we will be blamed even though it is not our fault. Like, and I keep thinking about like, well, how, like, this is how systems of oppression work. I mean, I think this is why we got where we got, is because
you're not wrong.
this is like how oppression works. It's like, now, welcome to
It's all Tracy
oppression.
Foltz's
Yeah,
fault.
it's Tracy Foltz's fault, or it's Esther, or
Mhm.
whomever. Like, now, one of our trustees is being sort of held responsible. Like, how the framing has been is that it's Esther's fault. Like, and it's absolutely not. I know, it's nuts. Right. So, but that's how oppression works. And so, like, I don't know that I can single-handedly combat, like, I only have, what, now I can't think of who said it, but you can't take down the master's house using the master's tools, right?
Oh,
So, like, on some level, the control that we have is over the agenda, control that I have is over the agenda, right? And asking you as colleagues, friends now,
right, yeah.
please come, right? So that we can solve this one problem.
Mhm.
But you are absolutely right. And the likelihood is that because this has become a political issue, there's a lot more oomph in like making it chaos and dramatic. Like, there's just more oomph in it. So I don't know what to do about that. I can't control that. Yes.
The decision is to stay on or not stay on is y'all's.
Yeah,
I would say as a person, not one of the three of you. That there's the willingness to stay on to make sure the bills get paid. Does not have to include the willingness to continue to do every stick of work
I was thinking that.
that needs to be done. And we have the control of the agenda, we also have the power of our votes, and so there are three continuing board members who would be staying out of their volunteerism. There are two that are currently still in their term, right? Those are numbers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there are also realities to what decisions can and should be made. So we've a little bit been talking about it like, well, how do we get the RFP moving forward, right? Well, as soon as the new trustees are voted in, we have a group of people who might change decisions, who might choose to go a different way. And I certainly, if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't want to feel responsible for ensuring any particular outcome of a board that you will not remain on if everyone does their jobs. And so you use, sort of keeping the seat warm. I think the parts that are important are that if the library needed to convene and make a decision and have the ability to do that, if it needed to, in an absolute situation, that we don't leave the library unable to pay its bills or pay its staff.
Yeah.
Those are the most important things to me.
Yeah.
Michelle would say, like, our must-haves, right?
Yeah.
Like, everything else might just need to wait until there's a
Mhm.
board that's willing, that's able, that's responsible for living with the consequences of every decision made. In the ways that you guys have more than signed up for that.
Yes, and my concern is that this gets dragged on through budget season.
Yeah.
My concern too is that this is exactly what somebody might want.
Yeah.
I mean, voting on paying the bills is not no big
Not
deal.
a big deal.
Like, that is actually like,
Not enough.
that is the
Things
first
we
thing,
do.
that is literally the number one thing that a trustee does, is you are a fiduciary. And so, and I'm not saying this would be true, but what if Heather decided to install a hot tub on the ceiling or on the newly completed roof? Like, right,
Yeah.
walk right out your office and And that would be in the bills, right? Like, there are some, this is not,
Real.
it's real. And I'm not sure what the appropriate lever is to pull, because I know I'm going to be blamed no matter what. Like Esther has said almost nothing for years, and now she's being held responsible for.
Whereas I say all sorts of crazy
Yeah.
stuff, and nobody ever comments.
Right. It's kind of
It's totally true.
I mean,
It's totally true.
it's part of your charm.
It's kind of my
It's
thing.
part-
So
Trying to draw fire for years over here. What the hell? Anyway.
But ultimately, we have to pick a path, right?
yeah, I mean, I think Michelle's point is a good one, and like I'd like to put a little air into it. It's like, well, what I have to ask myself, like, what kind of death do I want to die? Right? Do I want to die a death where it's like slow and it could drag on indefinitely? I you get a little IV and you drag, which that sounds horrible.
Right.
Or do I want to just get shot and live with
Done.
it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I might be a more of a shot type person, but somebody else may be an IV person. I don't.
Unfortunately, any one of you,
It would
Nullifies
be
the
that
other
person,
two.
yeah.
That's true.
I
it's
like I was
gotta be, it's
That's
all or
gotta
none.
make the quorum, yeah.
like I was
To make
telling
up
my
the difference, all or
son
none.
the other night,
Yeah.
that it's best to pull the Band-Aid off quickly.
Yeah, getting each one of those little
It's like,
individual
yeah,
hairs is
yeah,
terrible.
yeah, exactly. I don't know, it is,
The library suicide squad.
Well, and it
definitely hard to find.
also, so a couple of suggestions, one is like, it definitely, bears on what else we discuss in this meeting.
Yeah,
And using this, like, while we have the time. The other is like, point of orders, like, we can call a recess if people need some quiet time. I mean, we don't have to decide like live while we're talking.
That's
You can
also-
decide quietly by yourself and then we discuss live while talking.
I mean, I think the other thing for me would be, we may need to just have another special meeting after the 13th based on what city council does, rather than setting up a decision now for waiting for city council action. We can
That's also
do
true.
it incrementally
Yeah.
and say like, all right, we have a plan now to get us to the 15th. And if they fail to act on the 13th, we need to have another meeting and figure out now.
I mean, we'll have a management meeting. We don't have to create another
Right.
meeting,
Yeah,
so
there's
we can have a
quorum.
discussion and there's
Yeah.
quorum at that meeting.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we can make a decision then about what we wanna do based on what city council does on the 13th, so,
Yeah. Okay,
I mean.
I would still have a question, if they could be appointed on the 13th, that doesn't mean they can be present on the 15th, but you're right, that we can say, okay, well, people have been appointed. So.
Yeah.
Here's we're gonna have another special board meeting in July, so we can swear those folks in,
Mhm.
yeah,
I like that idea of like.
yeah, me too.
Let's plan not into tea leaves, but like the balls in somebody's court, let them shoot their shot. I don't know what the thing is.
I was wondering, like, are you gonna make it all the way through to that one? I was like, are you gonna
When
switch?
you said shoot, and then I was like.
It's like metaphor, do you wanna keep
Metaphor.
the violence? Yeah, maybe not.
Sports metaphors.
Good for sports.
Sports, it's
Sports ball,
Sports ball.
yeah.
I love
Okay.
it. Sports metaphors, yeah.
So this item really was born, and I'm gonna hand it over to Michelle in a moment. As we were talking a lot about, and in some ways this is informed by what Victoria and Jean said around having some concerns around not really knowing what to do. And I kind of want to get it on the record that like the system is designed where you never have the same knowledge as an existing trustee.
Mhm.
Never.
Yeah.
Like, so when I joined, for example, it was right at the time that North Branch was closing. So people were like mad, like really upset. I wasn't there. Like I wasn't a part of it. I didn't vote on it. It was also a part of the upset around the librarian where like 500 people marched on city council meeting. Like I wasn't a part of that, but I was in meetings where people were like, yo, fire. And I'm like, well, you say you, like, I didn't, like, I wasn't there, but. So I think that we need to level set, and I don't know how you'll do that going forward as trustees to make that super clear. that there will never be a time when you can get everyone on the board at the same base level of
Designed
knowledge.
not-
It's just not possible. OMA makes that very difficult,
Mhm.
which I think is actually like a good thing. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, like you come in with the knowledge that you have,
Mhm.
you do the best that you can. It's never going to be perfect, and it keeps people from doing like collusive, inappropriate things. If everybody is, if I was sending an email being like, here's everything that I want you to do, get on my team, like then
Right.
it's just me.
Faction building.
Yeah, faction building, and that's not good. On the other hand, I think to Katie's point, this whole thing around the lease, the SLAs, and the IGA has gone on for the entire time that I've been on for 6 years. This has been a conversation, and we have made no notable progress.
Whatsoever.
And that is not accept in no business world model is it okay for it to take 6 years to solve this kind of problem, because this is just a like on off switch. Is it there? Is it not? Like this is crazy. And so I would be very upset if I were joining the board now, especially given how many people will be joining the board,
Mhm.
because they'll have to do something about it. To have no knowledge seems not wise. So
Especially given all of the brouhaha around the like,
exactly,
you were wanting to separate the district library, all that nonsense that got out of control.
honestly, like it was intellectually lazy.
It was,
Like it was intellectually lazy
which
to.
I totally should not be surprised by, but
Yeah, I was very disappointed that that was what came out of it. But I think what we are seeing is there may be some political motivations behind framing it that way. Like who knows? I don't know why people do the things that they do.
still suffer from this illness where I think when people are confronted with facts, they will.
Geez, did we ever had this conversation?
Maybe we have.
26, guys.
It's the illness. I keep thinking like when you confront people with facts,
I
people
keep thinking of
incorporate that in their knowledge base and their worldview, but
okay, I just have to say this. My dad used to tell me that if I had a fatal flaw, it was that. He was like, you keep thinking that you're just gonna explain and the person is gonna be like, you know what, you're right. Why was I doing that? He was like, you cannot rationalize with babies, drunks, and stupid people. Which
I mean, he was a
Well,
cop.
right.
Yeah.
right, he was a police officer, so he,
You know.
babies, drunks, and stupid people. But I have that too, and I kept thinking like,
Surely once people, once the facts come out, nope. Continued way, way, way longer than you think it should.
it's shocking.
Yeah.
So Michelle, in a moment of her Michelling for real,
Oh,
with
Michelle.
like, it's gonna be a verb. Like it's Michelling. What is
Yeah.
Michelling? It's taking a bunch of information, synthesizing it in a logical, reasonable way, and hoping that people will read it, understand it, and move appropriately.
Mhm.
That is to Michelle.
Thanks, I love that.
So, Michelle, please explain
Okay,
your document.
so I sat down when I thought I was all done to make sure that Victoria had what she needed to get the treasurer role, and I loaded all these documents into Claude, and I was like, set these in the right order for me, like here's what I want from this, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. And it turned out that it was like more than just the treasurer situation.
Yeah,
And then I was like,
You did a
all
big
right,
lift
so
here.
we're gonna put all these, and I needed to go through all my email from
Mhm.
like, I was like, oh yeah, then there's this document and this document, what about that? So I started pulling them all into one folder and I was like, this is really, all the incoming trustees really need the same context. So then it became one memo for the treasurer, one memo for the new trustees, because they really need to be oriented
Mhm.
to, I can't just say, here's a bunch of documents, read them, right? Because there were like 12 documents at that point.
We need context.
So, yeah, it was like you needed a timeline and some context as to like why all these things happened the way they did.
Mhm.
So, there were a couple things that, didn't need to be in this public facing version that I pulled out, like the performance management document that, isn't appropriate because it's performance related for the executive director, but I think is still appropriate for the trustees to all review and be familiar with, like why we had that and so on. And I think that's an important thing for them to have on their
Can I
radar.
interrupt you for just a
Yeah.
moment? I just want to make sure that we're clear that it was the performance that you're relating to is that we took the job description and used that literally as how somebody would be evaluated.
Yes.
And
correct.
so that is not an indication about somebody's
Correct.
underperformance or
Correct.
overperformance. It's just
Yeah.
by design of the job description and
Correct.
evaluation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like how any of us, I'm sure, if you work in a organization with more than 50 people are evaluated at your job.
Yeah.
Because it's like the legal way you would do that. So we were holding our one employee to that same standard. And so anyway, this is a timeline of events, and then there was so much confusion around why the Maristem advisors were involved and what their recommendations were. I wanted to make sure everyone had that proper context also. And then we had sent memos to city council too that
Three.
yeah,
Mhm.
that weren't I think fully digested or read. They were long and maybe weren't read, but that we had been asking since last fall for city council's help in having a pathway to access capital to get our needs met. And I think that this whole idea that we were asking for the building to be transferred to our books was a gift or some other, there was some sort of like nefarious motivation. And so I wanted all of that cleared in the context of the timeline, why we were asking for it and what the point was, and that this isn't the cities to give. It's all on the
All
same,
of
it's
us.
like the books are the residents of Evanston. It's like,
Right.
doesn't matter here. It's, this is for a pathway to capital to have a library that we all want to have.
The board doesn't.
And I was trying to put all that into context. So that's what we have here. And I hope that this feels like people would be able to understand what all has been going on and why these things feel urgent to us and why we've been spinning in circles.
Yeah, I read it. It was brilliant.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just
thank
say,
you.
thank you so much. This is the most robust documentation. This alongside with what Tracy has shared in the last couple months in Ripple is gonna serve as a legacy statement for you all and all the work you've done here. And it's gonna be really helpful for new board members and continuing board members. So I
Yeah,
thank you for that.
it's,
Great.
thank you so much, because that was. whew.
Now, if you could just make it into a 2-minute TikTok video.
Little dance. We'll be like IGA.
No, 3 seconds.
I mean,
So funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean. I don't know that there's anything that for us to do. I do wonder if there should be some intentional outreach. Like, I'm not sure that there's anything for us to do, like this, hopefully this packet, because now, like, that was a part of my strategy, Michelle's strategy, your strategy, like, we need to have things in the packet, because then if it's in the packet, it's public, right? So we may have this document, we know we sent 3 emails
Mhm.
about this whole lease thing, but maybe the public doesn't know that we sent 3 emails and that we've been doing this for 3 years and trying to get this solved. And so maybe maybe this will be a kind of a rallying cry. But
All you can do is put the information out there.
yeah,
Is there a
that's-
way we
that's-
can make it more prominent somehow for our council members, for example?
I suppose we could email it to them. I can email it.
So one of the things that has been kind of what's the right word? A sticky wicket, you know?
Yeah,
Because that doesn't sound like a real problem, right? Sounds much more friendly.
yeah.
A sticky wicket is that how do we as a board communicate with city council?
That's true.
So, like, as individual people, we live in this community, right? It's totally reasonable for us to reach out to our
Mhm.
council member and say, like, I want you to be thinking about that. Is a completely
Fair
reasonable, rational thing. But that's very different than how the board communicates. And so realistically, like, and this is not, an inflated sense of my own individual importance, but Luke is not my peer, like Luke, like according, like, we're both governing bodies. So the executive director is Luke's peer.
The city manager, just to be clear.
Oh, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, thank you. The city manager and the ED, they should be having conversations. I should not be having conversations with the city manager. The president of this board should not be having conversations. That doesn't make sense. If anything, the person that the president should be talking to is the mayor. So any communication that we would be sending would be
As a citizen.
as a citizen, could be, to whomever you want. But from this role or this seat, the presidency, that should be to the mayor. So where it becomes kind of a sticky wicket is that, our mayor has announced he's out October 18th. Like, and I don't know if you're following council politics, there's a lot going on. So I don't know, like, how we've tried using the appropriate levers. And, I'm not sure that I should,
I have a lot of thoughts.
previous communication has not been received and acted upon in the way that I would have anticipated. And I think part of that is because there's confusion about the difference between an advisory board and a governance board.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm speaking out of school when I say that Luke has asked me not to communicate above him. But it's not appropriate, in my estimation, I'm open to feedback, for me to be communicating with him. Like, that doesn't seem right. So I'm not sure how to your question, I'm not sure how to communicate in a way that actually resolves these issues. Like, who am I supposed to talk to?
I know.
Or not me, but who is
The board president.
the board president supposed to talk to? Because talking to the city manager seems not appropriate.
Mhm.
And talking to the mayor, like, that seems more appropriate.
Well, yeah, and if I may add too,
Yeah.
I think part of this is, a couple of city council members have been clear that they don't recognize this board as being an equal in any way, because we're not
Yes.
elected, and have referred to the fact that we're not then therefore accountable to the public. And I have tried to respond to that, which I included in the packet, by saying that there's different accountability model. And the law was designed, the Illinois Library, Local Libraries Act designed this accountability model intentionally so that we rotate in every 3 years, and that we're accountable through democracy in a different way. You don't want your library trustees to be responsive to local politics, I mean, and free speech the way you would
Yeah.
other direct politics, with direct politics in other ways, right? So you wouldn't want just like the whims of voters to be impacting your library trustees like you would other forms of government. And that was by design, and I don't think that that's been something that some people agree with, and so it has been a difference of opinion, I guess. And we've been left with no path to resolution on this, so.
Yeah.
Can I just say how hilarious, this is my personal opinion, I continue to find it hilarious in the city of Evanston, how much attention is paid to the mayor. When I'm like, this is not a strong mayor form of
No, it's
government.
not.
Who cares who the mayor is? We could swear in a dog. And, like, I just, sorry, Dan Biss, but like, I mean,
It's a fair point.
the city manager
Yes.
is in charge.
Yes.
I mean, the tie breaking does matter.
The tie breaking does
Yeah.
matter to a certain extent, but like, the arguments that they've been having, when I think about city council meetings, I think about Dog Beach, because that's been going on ad nauseum.
Yeah.
And arguing about how we're gonna vote or select who's gonna take Dan Biss's place when if he finally ever, whatever. I'm so just frustrated because, it's like,
Yeah. I
and
think
here we are having a discussion in
Yeah.
a public forum. So like, we don't have any OMA complaints, do we? I don't know.
No,
No, yeah. So, I mean, what, the city just settled another one recently?
that's fair.
So I am very, as a private citizen on this public forum, I'm like, it's very disappointing.
You're speaking for
I'm
yourself.
speaking for myself when I say that, like, the other thing is, sorry, we're backtracking now, back to the whole like sticking around until
Yeah.
keeping the seat warm. it's like, it's. It's incredibly frustrating that I'm going to be the bigger person here
I know.
when I feel like there's
Yeah, I know.
so many people over at City Hall that can't get their heads out and
I do think it's kind of funny that people literally were like, get rid of all of them, make them all vacate their seats. And I was like, you know what happens if,
it's really fortunate that I don't give.
but it's kind of
Anyway,
funny that people
yeah,
were like,
like-
get rid of all of them. It's like, then you wouldn't be able to have a library. Like, you have to have trustees in order to have a library, but that's neither here nor there. I think to Jean's question, how do we solve this? Like, what do we do to ensure that city council, one, responds to, appoints for, wait,
Understands the importance of
Not
appointing people.
seven, how do we ensure that city council appoints 7 people? 2, how do we make sure that those 7 people are prepared to serve?
That's pretty good.
3, well, so I was gonna say we've already done 2.
Yeah, fair enough. We've already done 2.
I teach
You
for-
and Michelle have already done 2.
If I had a whiteboard, I teach, you remember I teach, so it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
1, how do we make sure city council does their job? 2, how do we make sure that the trustees are prepared? 3, how do we make sure that we don't have a governance crisis? Well, we've solved 2 and 3, see?
There you
Got
go.
there, 2 and 3 are solved. The 1, how do we make sure the city council appoints 7 members? We have no control over city council.
Correct, and I would say Jean's question was how, like, can we, since we can't control city council,
Yeah,
nor should we. The
Mhm.
board
Yes.
should not control city council,
Right.
individual community members. I also heard in that, like, well, is there something we can do to better inform? To be intentional with communication? So that it's clear that information has been provided, that they are making decisions and actions based on full access to the information that's available.
I wonder, I'm just curious, do you think that they have not received the information?
I wouldn't say.
Jean,
I know it's available.
do you think that the information has been readily available?
I'm not aware that it should be posted once it's sent, but I believe that it's been socialized. I've heard about it in meetings. I've heard Michelle.
And Michelle's provided the documentation that emails have been sent.
I've read Mary Gavin's editorial piece.
Mm-hmm.
Some people seem to be aware of it, whether or not it's city council members, I don't know.
I'm gonna say something else that may not be like really great, is that I think a lot of people in governance tend to ignore public comment.
Mm,
That they think these are just the people with the axe to grind. And so if that is the only like official lever, like if email, we have to be cautious with email. Although
Right.
we have sent, as a board, we have communicated via email, right? So that could be FOIA'd, like there's no problem with that. You can see exactly when the emails went, who it went to, right? But if email hasn't flipped the switch and public comment hasn't flipped the switch, what other switch is there?
I mean, are the union members fully aware of the fact that they might not get paid
I don't
in the
know.
event of a governance crisis?
I don't know.
Because they,
Do you think they are, Heather? Do you think they understand?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
because, I mean, we've seen them get all, or, up in
yeah,
meetings about non-factual things, but,
I don't know.
like, are they aware of the fact that if we don't vote to pay the bills, they don't get paid?
I don't know.
Sure.
I think that's a
Because,
fair question.
I mean, they could show up at a city council meeting and
They did show up
we
at
do-
city council
we
meetings.
do have evidence. There is evidence that city council definitely hears the union. So, I mean,
So this is one of those
We
moments
did
of,
use the example of the government shutdown earlier too. but-
yeah,
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
I think my hope. Yeah. There's something in me that says, that doesn't feel like right about us
I've discussed it in a public meeting, they can access the information. I'm
Yeah,
not
that's true.
asking, I'm not telling them to do anything.
That's true,
I'm
and
just
they're
asking.
recorded and available on our
Right.
YouTube
I'm
channel.
just asking if they were aware of a fact.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great question. That's a great question. And I don't know.
Okay.
And
So I think these are really good points. Let me say this, I think our plan, it sounds like, is that, at least for now, the three of us are agreeing to come to the July 15th.
Yes.
Yep.
We will know by then, the city council will have their July 13th meeting, the city council has an opportunity to swear in new members on July 13th. If
they
they
need a
don't.
point, they get
Appoint,
sworn in.
right.
Yes,
We
sorry,
heard,
appoint,
yeah.
yes, appoint new members on July 13th. If they do not, I cannot promise that I will continue serving
I
longer than
also-
that, and I may resign. So I will have an opportunity to have a think about it, as you've described, between now and then, and I will know by July 13th, when we meet on July 15th, what I plan to do.
Yeah,
But I think we know, we have enough information right now to go on to do our next steps.
yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
I think that's both wise and I respect that approach. very
yeah,
much.
it's fair.
I think I just wanna, again, reiterate, we submitted to the packet for minutes. I'm happy to share with anyone who needs them, but we submitted a very clear articulation of the problems between the two groups that
Mhm.
have, I had submitted an application to continue as a trustee. I wanted to, I love the library, I love working on this
Yeah.
board. My goods and services are not needed right now for this library. I am not, like, what I bring to this is not the right time for this, and so I don't wanna continue here when I'm not wanted, and that is the case. So,
Ooh,
that is why I'm not continuing. It's not for a lack of wanting to be here, and if that changes in the future, I'll reapply as a
Sure.
trustee, but right now, that is where we are.
Yeah, I hear that. Michelle, your talents and skills can be put to use and will be better appreciated by other organizations. I thoroughly enjoyed working.
feelings mutual. I won't say that they're not needed. I think that,
Not
I think that's
appreciated.
not appreciated is, but not by your colleagues.
Yeah,
I think it's very,
You guys are great.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant.
like, what's that expression, like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it? It's like,
mhm.
you're, it's never gonna get full while there's a hole, so.
Yeah.
I get it,
For me, there are some very specific things
yeah,
that I cannot call out for reasons.
yeah,
That until those things are addressed and fixed, I
Yeah.
don't see any progress going forward anywhere.
I think that's
And-
fair.
I cannot continue to sit here with an elephant in the room in the city. And beat my head against a stone wall,
Yeah,
so. That's like, I thoroughly respect people that are capable of continuing to try to put their thumb on the scale. I am not one of those people, like, when
yeah,
I meet a movable object, fine. Like,
okay, so we've got a plan.
Yeah.
The plan is, Michelle has been appointed vice president so that she can continue to serve through. Even though the Library Act has rules around it, our bylaws say something slightly different, so this solves that. On whatever day that is, the 15th, we'll all show up to management committee, we'll do the RFP review. And hopefully, city council will have appointed new trustees, they'll show up to the
we
meeting,
can start.
I'll swear them in. We can either
We can go
move,
get drinks,
maybe,
maybe.
there's nothing downtown,
I know, downtown is sad these days.
yeah. There's not a lot of options downtown,
Mhm.
somebody should fix that. Jean, Victoria, are we both? Got restaurant experience, start a bar. So are there any, there is no action item. The one thing that I'd like to do, Heather, is make sure that, what was in the packet also goes in the minutes, since we discussed it. To ensure that it doesn't get lost to time. And,
And since our 15th agenda will be posted before the city council meeting. On
yes,
The 13th,
that's right.
that agenda might be flexible enough to include. Whatever needs to be included to continue to have the discussion
Mhm.
publicly about what happens next.
Yes, so on that agenda, we would need another transitions item, but if it doesn't have to happen, actually. So because we have to post it in advance, there are two items that have to be there. One is the election of officers.
Mhm.
So you have to elect a president pro tem to,
Yeah.
An appointment of the,
Some, and the washroom, somebody living this.
oh, okay.
oh, thank you, thank you.
It's fancy, expensive watch.
Very expensive watch. Somebody is probably at home now, like, oh no. But they'll turn on Find My Friends. Is it dead? We could charge it.
Okay.
Okay. So election of officers.
And potentially swearing in of new,
Yep, so three things, swearing in, election of officers, RFP, and transition discussion. And the order of those should be oh, an RFP.
You said that.
I did,
But nothing on
Probably
the creator.
transition discussion first, because.
yep,
Like if those newly appointed folks aren't able to attend, we would need to have like, what are we doing
Yep.
about that?
yep. So transition first, then
Swearing.
We vote before the swearing in, right?
yeah,
On the RFP.
RFP,
What are we voting on the RFP? We're making the decision?
If we,
Yeah.
if, yeah, we're
If
trying to
there's
make a
going to be
referral
one.
from the management committee to
Yeah.
the new board.
yeah,
to the,
Well, if we're
To the
making
board.
it to the, right.
So that would be before the swearing in.
so I think we need to have a philosophical discussion around that. My instinct would be to do it before, and the reason is that if it,
Before the new swearing in.
yes, and the reason I would, initially I was like, no, put it in after. That was my initial thought, but then I was like, wait a minute, if,
That's not fair to the new board.
It
You
is
could
abs-
get it. Yeah.
I hated that I was.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's fair. It's
Vote
actually,
on it and then bounce, that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
so then we're responsible if
That's
it,
smart.
it just seems fairer
Mm-hmm.
for them not to have to live with the consequence of something that they didn't even,
Vote on.
they wouldn't have read any of it.
No.
They wouldn't
Put it on
have.
the next couple of people, so it'll be fine.
And I think it's
Gee,
important.
you changed.
I'm glad.
She's a dad.
That's
I'm
smart.
glad we
Right.
said that out loud.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be the
It's for the
reason for
purpose
doing
of the board, this board taking responsibility for that decision.
right,
Yeah.
That is the purpose. of
yeah, what
approving
other
the RFP.
purpose would there be?
You never know what people are gonna read into. I
Sure.
sure gave a series of well-considered statements and only one statement was pulled out.
Sure enough.
Sure.
so you're saying RFP.
That's really true.
second,
Underscoring the
then
purpose.
swearing
Yeah.
is third. And
Yeah.
election of officers.
Yep. Oh, yes, election of officers will include identifying, oh, this shouldn't be a problem. So. Wait. So they all get sworn in, boom, bye.
They need a president or vice president.
Yes.
Secretary.
Well, you need a president pro tem to run the election. So
Mhm.
you have to do that first, and then you have the election officers.
Which. Is definitely happening on the 15th or might need to happen at a later date.
Sure.
That's,
We have no idea.
That's uncontrollable.
We're down to.
Yeah,
Why would you wanna have?
We don't
it that
have-
meeting?
huh?
Why would you wanna have it on that meeting though?
Because somebody would have to run it somebody would have to
the
be,
president pro tem will have to stay running the meeting, but
Mhm.
whether the full election of all the full officer slate.
no,
That's what I'm asking is on the,
the president pro tem, their only purpose is to facilitate the election.
so it has to happen that night.
The election?
But if you didn't have so it would be exactly the problem, if you don't establish, like, here are the people, here is the executive officers. If you don't establish that, then we'd be stuck in the like,
And they'll be put forever.
in the loop of forever. So the idea is the president pro tem is like, I'm calling a special, they have to,
Oh.
the president pro tem would be calling the special election.
Mhm.
The officers would get voted in. The president pro tem could turn out to be the president, like,
Sure.
they could say, I wanna be the president for real.
Yeah,
And so they get voted in, problem solved, the president from that moment. So this happened when I became president. Sean was in that meeting. I got voted president and I ran the rest of the meeting.
Right.
So whoever is the new president replaces the president pro tem. The only purpose for them is to call the
Vote,
the vote.
yeah,
They're just facilitating that and then they
yeah,
move out of the way.
if they want.
If
Unless
they want, I
throw
mean,
their
who
hat
knows
in
what
the
they'll
ring,
do?
right, yeah.
Well, they're president pro tem, so their only purpose is to
Yeah,
call that election. They stop doing that. That's
They
not a
stop doing it
permanent
and
position.
meet
It's
Okay.
just,
they
Yes,
just got
reverse
it.
order.
And is the president pro tem appointed by you before the swearing? in
No,
or
they will-
after the
Board elects
swearing?
the board elects them. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it, all right.
So you know what it's like? The mayor. So like when Daniel Biss steps out, you elect a mayor of your own
Mhm.
members. So
Yeah.
it works, it's a president pro tem, a mayor pro tem, it's the same idea. So you elect from your body, that person runs the facilitation, and then you'll pick a real person.
Right.
You look
I
concerned.
know, I just have one other transition item I was
Yeah.
realizing was that, the finance committee usually meets right before the board meeting, but it's, you can decide the time and place, with Heather.
The week before.
It's
on
normally scheduled for
Thursday.
the 9th at 3, but you can work with Heather to come up with a better time if you prefer. I probably won't.
Did anybody meet with you today?
I don't think you have to. Yeah, if you want
I
me to
mean,
call in.
okay.
There wasn't
So I'm
any-
happy to, but I don't
Well,
want to in person. I don't want to be.
well,
Yeah,
Denominator for
Yeah,
I was kind of
So it ends up
derelict.
just being president
I mean, for obvious reasons, so,
and me.
but I guess if there's an emergency between
So
now
we're back
and
to two-member committee.
whatever date that is, you'll let me know. I got it.
But
there's an emergency.
There's an emergency.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions about
Mm.
committees, but they may not be
you
relevant.
can, figure out.
Yeah,
actual works
probably
you
keep
should
it for right
send.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the newly elected president who appoints, reconstitutes all the committees.
Not reconstitutes,
Re-
appoints the leadership,
Membership.
yep.
Leadership and membership or the.
So the members decide
Which committees they
which
wanna
committees
be
they wanna be on. The other part is that, hey, you said something that made me think about it.
So DEIB doesn't have a
No.
chair.
Yeah, if he doesn't have any members.
Right,
Board members.
doesn't have any members
Empty.
and, dang it.
So communications is Jean.
Communications is Jean Victoria and the president.
And
Is facilities empty without me and Megan?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
And the finance is the treasurer and the president.
Can I make a recommendation while we're just talking about it?
Yeah.
'Cause I think we said we wanted the president on communications, so that, because for a conduit, like, I think it's important for the president to come and listen. But I think you're increasing the number of
There's none.
meetings that a president needs to come to have quorum, and I think the president can call in and listen to that meeting. I think that's
so.
totally fine. I
Okay,
think it's,
yeah.
makes it easier for him or her, and you should not make them be a member, but make them like call in. and
That's
listen.
fair.
Yeah.
Well, the president ex officio on all meetings
On all-
anyway.
That's right.
yeah.
So like, there's no reason to I mean, I think finance
don't need
should
to.
have to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think for that, like, you need the president, I think, to participate, to make communications effective, but I think let them call in.
Yeah, there don't need to be a quorum.
Well, you said something that made me think about something.
While you're
Appointing-
thinking about it, so Heather, for the finance committee meeting, post the agenda on the sixth and
Members.
seventh.
So it is on the ninth
Sorry.
at 3. So it needs to be
Appoint leadership for the committee.
on the 7th
Yeah.
at the latest.
The latest, so I'm just working back from the holiday weekend, it's like, when do you? want
Yeah,
to touch
in the
base?
past, we have said,
Mhm.
you and I would need to touch base this week.
Okay,
Me too, Deb, you look
This
great today. Your hair looks awesome, the accessories brown is good for you.
okay, so
Right.
let's touch base this
Sport
morning.
women's sports t-shirt.
Nice.
I was gonna wear that after the boys, but then I was like, I can little sleep in it. Okay. Parents.
Okay, so.
I said something about the president, when the new president is elected, not the president pro tem,
Yeah.
president. And so then I guess the question is, are there any committee meetings? And how would they be, are there any committee meetings that would take place between the 15th?
And now,
Well, and now is the finance committee meeting and management committee, meeting, so I think we just saw for that, but then. And then we'll just have to decide on the 15th if there's anything,
Communications on the 7th?
yeah,
Yeah.
and Jean's got that.
Okay.
Did you say something that made my brain?
The EIB doesn't have any members.
No, it was in
No, it's
between
before
that.
that.
I'm like seriously having like a middle-aged moment. It's like,
hate that one.
So
I hate it, right, cause you're like, I'm pretty sure I was about to cure cancer.
Yeah.
Right there.
right?
Yeah.
Like, it was between.
Come back.
Oh,
It was at 3 o'clock in the morning, Gene.
no, that's,
Who meets with me?
is it who meets with Heather?
Meeting with Heather.
Yeah.
There we go. So. The cadence that we have does not need to be the cadence unless you want that to be the cadence. But I think you'll need to say something in that meeting because you'll need to get that
Going again.
going again.
So you
that's,
keep meeting with her with someone else.
I actually just suggested, do I need to keep meeting
There's
regularly?
6th and the 13th, like nothing's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
I'm off on the
Nothing's-
6th.
Yeah,
Oh, see, there you go. It's fine.
Yeah, and the 13th, we're just gonna wait and see what happens with city council anyway.
Obviously, if something,
Yeah,
right,
stuff you know where to
Yeah.
find
Yes.
all the relevant people.
yeah.
and there is an emergency plan.
Yes.
So, yeah,
All right, so I feel like that's it, right?
So
Or
the
does that,
DEIB will be canceled
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
yeah,
and the other three will happen at the times
Yeah.
regularly. New people can figure that out. Or at least at times for July.
maybe.
If the committee meet times will change going forward, that would be to the new.
And the former trustees event, attendance may need.
Why?
It's,
You
well,
won't- you
because
won't be a former trustee.
you will be a former trustee.
I won't? Oh,
Wow,
wow.
wow.
I mean, I think you can still go, but we just have to make sure nobody else. Will.
You can crash.
I hadn't signed up for it yet because.
Because you just didn't know what
I
was
started
gonna
talking
happen.
about it, it's just this.
That's nuts.
Mm.
I feel like I'm the kid in the group project who did all of my homework correctly. And these
Yeah.
yahoos on my team, not this team, but that messed up my group project and now I'm in the meeting.
I guess this is the first time you felt like this.
That's the kind of like story right there.
Valid point.
There were some former trustees and definitely fans of the library at the afternoon tea.
Ah, yes.
It was a total blast.
Awesome.
Heather and Jennifer and Marche,
Marche,
we all did an amazing,
Oh, that's
it was
so cool.
very sweet.
Excellent.
It wasn't a billion degrees.
Oh, that's helpful.
That's awesome.
There were questions and people were assured that the library continues in good leadership.
I mean, to Jean's marketing question, that could also be a good opportunity for us to tell the people that love the library, like, yeah, you need to read this and call city council, like, and say, solve this problem.
It'll be stated at the former trustee meeting
Hmm.
next week.
Well, you never know what can happen between now and
Just never.
July 9th.
Sure.
Anything's possible. Okay, so, are there any other bits of business that we want to add on to this? Are we good? Does everybody feel confident that they know
I think we're
what the
good.
next steps are?
Just because I'm remedial, could you just repeat the order of the agenda for 7:15, please?
That's not a bad
a
thing.
transition item,
Mhm.
Transition item, yeah.
the RFP,
RFP.
swearing in of new members,
Mhm.
appointing a president pro tem, and then election
Election
of
of officers, okay, so
Okay.
3.5 is town. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, wow.
Jean also noticed that I left off, on the committee structure for the, trustee orientation memo, of the communications committee, so I think it's not reflected properly in our bylaws, so I was using to base that, so.
Yeah,
That may be something you can do, trustees.
It
want
is.
to-
It's on the No, it
website.
is. You might have been using an outdated bylaw,
Yeah.
that was what it was.
So I think we want to, I'll update that, which is very easy to do. I'll put a new one in that reading
Sure.
folder, no problem. But if there's any other items that people notice were left off, just flag those for me and I'll plan to do that now that I've got another couple weeks before I roll off.
Victoria, do you feel like you can explain notebook LM
That's,
To whom?
to
To you?
No, not to me,
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
but yes, to me.
No.
That's a sign that you really
I
mastered.
know,
Okay.
yes, I think I can, and
Okay,
I
cool.
will also make sure that, I think. That there were maybe two of them, and I think one of them, the last time I checked, it didn't have access to, so I just wanna make sure that all the access is clean.
Okay,
Cause I thought I was a co-owner.
You
But
can
if I
be
don't have
backup
access,
for
I-
your backup. I can be that backup.
And then the new secretary will be a backup. So,
I would
but I
also
will,
just like assume
sure that-
that all the like Robert's rules, presentations and all that stuff was gonna get dumped somewhere, and that was
Yeah.
separate onboarding
Email.
training, that I wasn't doing all that stuff, so that was just one other thing.
I'll put that in the board governance notebook,
Mhm.
Perfect.
maybe not right this second.
Yeah, sure. I just would say there was very good.
Yes.
Yeah,
stuff that
Yeah,
I-
yeah, yeah.
That was like a separate track, and I wasn't trying to duplicate somebody else's method.
yeah,
Cool.
okay,
Okay.
Want to motion to adjourn, cause I got that.
I like it. I didn't even have to ask.
Motion to adjourn, made by Mills, seconded, I second. All right, Dada,
Yes.
False.
Yes.
Huggins, I, Kelleher.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Shire.
Sorry.
Shay and Shire are right next to each
I
other.
mean-
I don't even know who I am at the next
Like,
future trustee meetings with all new
vowels
alphabet.
sound different.
Yeah.
Right,
Name.
right. And we've never, that's the one thing in Robert's rules that I just never liked as a vibe, is calling